morning. I think it is right on the dot and time for us all to get started. I welcome all of you to the Backstreet Park dedication ceremony this morning. We appreciate you all joining us and being here for this special day and day. We're excited about this. For those of you that I have not previously met, I am Amanda Munyon. I am the President and CEO of the Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, and it is certainly my honor to be here today. This park is amazing. It's beautiful. Look around you, take a minute, soak it in. We are very, very excited about the beauty that surrounds us here. It's definitely a testament to the potential we have in the city of Lawrence and Lawrence County as a whole. Following the days of a thriving Backstreet business community, unfortunately many buildings fell into despair. Today I stand here with excitement, knowing the past, enjoying the present, and looking forward to our future. This park represents and stands for so many good things and the amazing potential in the city of Lawrence. As a Chamber of Commerce that works hard to serve as a unified voice to promote, strengthen, and help develop all of Lawrence County, I see this park as a very important piece to the county puzzle of success. With this park, we celebrate the contributions of many people, but especially the African American entrepreneurs. We celebrate the bright future we have in our business community, as well as work towards encouraging growth through future entrepreneurship and unity. It is my honor to be here today to celebrate with all of you. Now I'm very excited to introduce Mr. Columbus Stevens. He is the son of the late Columbus R. and Hattie M. Stevens, a native of Lawrence, South Carolina. He is married to the former Thelma S. Simmons of Charleston, South Carolina. They are the proud parents of two beautiful daughters, Shalina V. Cunningham and Leanne Stevens. Two grandchildren, Anaya Macbeth and Aquarius Stevens. Columbus was educated in the public system of Lawrence, South Carolina, public school system. Last graduating class in Sanders High School in 1970. Further his education, received BS degree in biology, chemistry at Barber Scotia College in Concord, North Carolina. If I said that incorrectly, I apologize. In 1975. Graduated with honors cum laude. He has been employed in the public sector for 45 years. He has been employed as McCormick County Administrator for the past 9 years. He believes in converting challenges into opportunities. He is a deacon at the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church located on Kane Road, Highway 252 in Lawrence, South Carolina, where Dr. Jefferson McDowell is a pastor. Columbus understands true servanthood. We will be judged by how many people we have served and not how many people have served us. Very obedient to the Word of God and knows that you can always count on God. He is a child of the King. Please help me welcome Mr. Columbus Stevens.
To the Honorable Garrison of the elected city officials, appointed officials, families and friends, it's a great honor to be able to stand before you to tell you that our children need to get off to a good start. We can begin teaching them to learn to work hard. So if they appear to be a little slow, teach them the things that they need to know. So when they are faced with obstacles in their way, teach them tomorrow will be a better day. If tomorrow is still not good, inspire them that they can change things if they only would. And if they refuse to accept, give them all the love that you have kept. So when our children need a pattern and example, we can begin teaching them by setting good examples. So the future lies within the hands of all these children that rear upon the land. And then if you take a walk all the way from corner to corner to corner, all of these people had something in common, the entrepreneurs. I asked God, what would most of them say today? I'm not the speaker of the hour, but there are people that have a great influence as entrepreneurs. So what they would say today, I asked the question. And they say, look and see. Hear what you saw. So then my message to you, from everybody that was part of the back street, they would tell you that the path they walked was made for them by faith, a grain of sand. Because of those who paved the way, all of us are free to walk this way. The people that we have become today warrants no great thing, but the glory lies within the roots that we so proudly claim. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. That was a real blessing today and just inspirational, and maybe we should have let him introduce everyone with that energy. Definitely did a fantastic job. Thank you for being with us today. I would now like to introduce Mr. Gary Coleman, the City of Lawrence Administrator for the past 10 years. He will recognize the Historical Markers Committee and other important community members.
Morning. Welcome. Mid-year 2019, the mayor and council decided that the city of Lawrence needs more historical markers. Each one nominated a volunteer to serve on the Historical Markers Committee. In November of last year, the Historical Markers Committee met for the first time. And the first order of business was to identify and prioritize sites for historical markers within the city. In February 2020, the committee submitted their first list to City Council for approval. The number one site was the Backstreet Business District. Mayor and council decided that instead of the street side marker, the marker with names of businesses and their proprietors will be located in this park. Backstreet Park was born. The committee worked with the community and descendants of the proprietors to get as complete list as possible. In July, the list was submitted to City Council for approval. The Historical Markers Committee members are Chairperson is Ms. Emma Morrison, Vice Chairperson Robert Whitmore, Secretary Mr. Harold Ligon, other members Ms. Margaret McIntyre, Carolyn Short, Joey Holmes, and James Gamble. On behalf of the Mayor, City Council, and myself, I'd like to say thank you to the committee and the members of the committee that helped to develop this list.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you to all the committee members that worked hard to make so many great things happen. This park is a beautiful, beautiful tribute to the African American entrepreneurs of the past, present, and our future. Thank you for your leadership, Mayor, and again for all of the committee members and multiple people that had a role in this. Please help me welcome our City Manager of Lawrence, Nathan Sim.
Did I get a demotion? May have been an upgrade though. Good morning, everyone. It really is an honor to be here with you this morning. First, I want you to help me by thanking the individuals that I've sort of recognize and give them a hand after I sort of go through them. I want to say thank you to all the people who worked hard to make this park a reality. Thanks you to our City Administrator, Gary Coleman, to Jason Pridgeon and Tommy Burns, the heads of our Parks and Recreation Special Projects Departments. I'd like to thank Carol and Randy Davis, who prepared the landscaping plan and donated their services to the city for this beautiful place. I'd like to thank Michael Young for his excellent work in executing that landscaping plan and his restoration of the city's fountain, which was donated to us back in 1911. I'd like to thank Henderson Brothers for their outstanding masonry work that they did to create this special place. I'd like to say a special thank you to Representatives Mark Willis and Senator Danny Burden and Representative Doug Gilliam for their help in obtaining a grant from the state of South Carolina to help provide funding for this special project. I'd like to thank the Lawrence Commission of Public Works for their donation of the beautiful gas lanterns that provide a glowing, warm welcome to our downtown area. We'd like to thank Matt Strange and Diversified Signs for their work in creating the signage which welcomes folks to our downtown. That creates a beautiful backdrop for photographs inside the park, and the bronze sign and historical markers, which we will uncover soon, which recognize the significance of this area. I'd like to say a special thank you to the family of Columbus Stevens, who generously donated the funds for the benches in our park. Thank you once again to the Historical Markers Committee and the members of the public especially, who worked together to prepare the text of the plaques which mark this beautiful place. And thank you, City Council, for your support and leadership in bringing this project to fruition. Without each and every one of you, this special park would not be a reality. Now, I could tell you about the strategic reasons for building a wall, which helps ensure the safety of small children and helps reduce a little bit of road noise and creates a sense of intimate space, none of which, by the way, have anything to do with building an outdoor jail. I could tell you the strategic reasons for beautifying an intersection where two U.S. highways converge in the center of our downtown. I could tell you the importance psychologically of this project in encouraging a sense of hope as the people of this city saw brick being laid during the darkest days of a historic pandemic. I could tell you about how this project was completed with money raised from hospitality funds, from a grant from the state, from unclaimed funds which were owed to the city by the state treasurer's office, and through the generosity of private donations. I can tell you about how this park will generate and provide generate revenue and provide a new space for special events. I can tell you about this park and how even before it was completed, it was identified by a developer who is coming to Lawrence now and said that one of the reasons he could see why Lawrence was a forward-thinking, up-and-coming city was because of this project in particular, and the funds and the investment that will come will more than pay for this park. I can tell you about all those things, and I'm very happy to share that information with you. But it should not and must not overshadow why this park is so significant to the city of Lawrence. This park is important because of what it recognizes about our past. And in my mind, it's most important because of what it means for the city's future and its children. Lawrence was officially incorporated by the South Carolina General Assembly on December 15, 1845. 175 years ago next month, and we will joyfully celebrate that day. But just a few years before that date, in 1838, the historic courthouse, which now stands in the center of our square, was erected. The architect who designed that building was a man by the name of Thomas Beale. And the man who oversaw its construction was a man by the name of Dr. John Wells Simpson, who in January 1846 would become the first intendant of the city of Lawrence, which was the title once held by my predecessors, those who we now call mayor. But if you review the records in our state archives about the construction of our courthouse, you will see that, like the U.S. Capitol in Washington and the White House, the building itself was built by the hands of skilled workers, enslaved individuals who were recognized as craftsmen even in their own time. Though their work was sought after and respected, they did not work for their own enrichment or livelihood. We know the name of just a couple of these craftsmen, Caesar and Joe, but there were many others. There were bricklayers and carpenters and stonemasons, all of whom we know about only because of the money which was paid to those who claimed ownership of them and the rights to profit from the fruits of their labor. Though these craftsmen and laborers built a courthouse, a place where the laws of this nation and state would be carried out, it was not a building in which they could, at that time, expect to receive equal justice under the law. When the first ordinances were passed in this city in 1846, the law required that any enslaved person offering goods for sale within the city limits must have permission in writing from his or her owner and must have a white person present with and having charge of them when selling those goods. Their labor and the fruits of their labor were not their own. And this point must not be lost. If we are to recognize how far we've come, if we are to fully measure the significance of this park, we must honestly recognize the place which Back Street occupies in the context of our history. The story does not begin at Back Street. It begins in the decades before the Civil War, when the foundations of our community first came into being. The hands of the enslaved individuals who helped build the foundations of our community could not receive payment for their own labor, much less own and operate their own business. Most of their names have been lost to us, but their contributions, particularly the skilled labor which helped build the most iconic building in this county, still stand as a reminder that from our earliest days, African Americans have been vital to building and growing the place we call home. In the aftermath of the 13th Amendment abolished the evil institution of slavery. And the 14th Amendment guaranteed that no state may deprive any person of life, liberty, property, without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. And yet, it did. Under the fiction of a system erroneously dubbed separate but equal, the dual systems of commerce developed through the end of the 19th century and into the 20th. One set of schools and restaurants and shops and services for white citizens, one set of schools and restaurants and shops for black citizens. Separate, but unequal. It was into this segregated system of dueling commercial activity that the area that we now know as Back Street came into being. Now, I believe it's important to be clear that the racism which led to Jim Crow segregation was wrong. And the system that grew out of that racism. And it is grievous that that system was employed and perpetuated here. And it must never be allowed to rear its ugly head again, either explicitly or by the unintentional consequences of our actions. There must be one line, united, where a neighbor loves his neighbor as himself, and where no individual faces discrimination, whether based upon the color of his skin or for any other reason. Perhaps this week more than most, one in which we have emerged from a contentious election season, or perhaps I should say are emerging from a contentious election season, and following a spring and summer with unrest across our nation. I believe it's particularly important that the people of this city hear plainly and clearly from its leaders that it is time to come together. We must love one another. As we continue to trace the lines of our history, we see that by God's amazing grace, something born out of abhorrent prejudice led to effects which would, in God's good time, be used for the good of our community. We read in Scripture in Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, "For we know that all things work together for good, for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose." I believe that we are not promised that life will be easy. Nor do I believe that we will always be treated fairly and justly. Nor do I believe that there will always be a tidy, happy ending. At least one that we can see from our perspective here on earth. But I do believe that the trials and tribulations we experience in our lives are the ways in which we are refined and shaped to be the people who we are called to be. That indeed all things work together for good. All things. And the trials experienced by those who lived and worked and did business here on Back Street were no exception. These trials and difficulties are what made the business owners and employees and their family members and their customers the people they were called to be. As a small business owner myself, I know what a challenge it can be to start a business. Having begun my law practice shortly after the crash of the economy in 2008, I wouldn't say I began it under the easiest of circumstances. But I know I was fortunate in many respects. Here, business owners struggle to find money to start a business, to rent or buy a space to do business out of, to stock goods and attract customers, all while contributing to the needs of their families. Now, the same could be said of many business owners, black or white, then or today. But the challenges that faced these entrepreneurs were monumentally more difficult. According to the Sanborn Fire Insurance maps, which plotted out every building in our city and type of business around town, we see that some of the earliest businesses in the Back Street area were already in place in the 1880s, less than 2 decades after the end of the Civil War. Think of what it must have been like to have been born into slavery at a time when it was illegal to teach enslaved persons to read or write, and then upon gaining your freedom, to be faced with the awesome responsibility, but limited means, of earning a living wage to support yourself and your family. Imagine growing up in a time when the political system of this state was bent on establishing a system of white supremacy, formally enshrined in the laws of the state. This is my assessment or opinion. The governor of the state of South Carolina, Ben Coleman, from 1890 to 1894, and one of our U.S. senators from 1895 until his death in 1918, the same time period historically that we know that some of the first businesses in Backstreet were being formed, is quoted as saying this: "We made up our minds that the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution were themselves null and void." He continued, "We of the South have never recognized the right of the Negro to govern white men, and we never will. We have never believed him to be the equal of the white man." I could go on reading quotes from this man and many of his fellow lawmakers at the time, but they are even more shocking and in fact disgusting. It isn't simply that business owners who built their shops and restaurants here and forged thriving businesses against the odds of market forces which face any entrepreneur were able to do that. It was that they forged thriving businesses against these odds and the incredible headwinds of Jim Crow's systematic racism. And yet, many did thrive. The stores and taxi stands and barbershops and drugstores and theaters and entertainment venues and all variety of other businesses which existed in this area were significant not just because they were, meaning that they were businesses which managed against those odds to stay open and do business. They were significant because of what they did. Standing in stark contrast to the inability of the generation before them to profit from their own labor, the entrepreneurs who operated businesses here now had the ability to keep an honest wage, which they earned through honest work. But most didn't merely keep that wage for themselves. These businesses fed and clothed families. They sent children to college. They put money in church offering plates. They helped families in need in the community. These businesses showed the children of their owners that there was a place for them in business and that their future was not limited to the cotton field or the cotton mill. These businesses help support local and national efforts to bring about change, equality, and civil rights. These businesses, forged in the fires of adversity and discrimination, help raise up a generation of leaders in the community, leaders who work to advance freedom, equality, and opportunity for all. It is only right and fitting that we recognize the legacy of these leaders and their businesses. And that is precisely what this park is intended to do. It is a brick and mortar symbol of this city's acknowledgement of their important contribution to our history. And while we specifically recognize the contributions of the businesses which existed here in the Backstreet area, we also recognize that there are minority-owned businesses all around our community, which, like the businesses located here, were crucial in supporting and shaping our community. We would not be who we are were it not for these businesses. Now, this park is important for its role in recognizing our past, for this role of this area in shaping the history of this city. But I believe it to be equally important for its role in help shaping our future. Now, you may say, Mr. Mayor, come on, how can a park help shape our future? Because this park doesn't just recognize our history, it shows who we as a community honor. We live in a world in which it can be difficult to find good role models. We find ourselves wrapped up in the glamour and excitement and even scandals of the lives of our favorite celebrities and actors and athletes and musicians. And the lure of money and fame is intoxicating to young people, especially those young people who grow up with the insecurities that come from a childhood spent in poverty. And while this allure is understandable, there is a better alternative. Since we first began discussing this project, I've envisioned a day when a young child approaches the plaque outside this park that we will soon unveil and recognizes the name of her grandmother or grandfather or great-grandfather. And her heart swells with pride because she sees that her ancestors and their hard work has earned the recognition and gratitude of this city. Imagine the change that could make in the course of the life of a child. Imagine the lives that could be changed through the work and service of the new generation of entrepreneurs, particularly those from diverse backgrounds, who see the promise and value in opening a business in their hometown, supporting their families, and serving their neighbors. Imagine the perceptions that will be formed and changed when a child of color realizes that his hometown cares so much about the legacy of his family and community that it dedicates one of the most prominent locations in town to a park celebrating them. Near the top of the plaque, which sits just outside these walls, prominently placed for every pedestrian who passes by to see, is a quote by Booker T. Washington. And it says, who are happiest are those who do the most for others. Imagine the possibilities for good if our entire community, black, white, and every other color in the rainbow, is reminded that happiness does not lie in power or money, but rather in loving God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and loving our neighbors as ourselves. Think of what this park communicates about our values. That a small southern town, like most southern towns, which has struggled to reconcile itself with its past, now lifts up the contributions of its African American citizens as a point of pride, and gives that recognition pride place. Sometimes a park is more than a park. And the message of this park is powerful. But it's a message that you will have to help share. The words cast in metal and mounted in brick are a strong and lasting statement. There is much more of a story to tell. And it will be our task moving forward to work with organizations like Lawrence County Museum to help tell the story of Baxter and its entrepreneurs more fully. We must work together, putting aside any divisions, so that that story is perpetuated. We must look forward to the future, recognizing that our unity and mutual respect is fundamental to our realizing the possibilities for our shared future. We must use this park as a tool to teach our children their history and lift up examples of entrepreneurship and service for them to follow. We must think of this place as a tangible reminder that the American dream does not come easily or without challenges, but also that with hard work and determination, setbacks can be overcome. That the American dream is still within reach of everyone, no matter the color of his skin. If we do our part, this space will be a treasured place for generations to come. And its significance will be far greater than just its beauty. Now comes the time when all the words having been said that need to be said. In my case, I'll add a few more. It's time to leave this place. We'll head outside. But my challenge to you is this. Will we merely delight in the moment of this park's dedication? Or will we support one another with unity of purpose in raising up the next generation to be grateful for our progress and to be the leaders who will build a great city on the foundations we have laid for the future prosperity of Lawrence? Will we do our part? Let's come together, do our best, and try. Thank you. Well, with that, let's do a little unveiling. If you'll join me just outside, we'll officially name this park.